Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm very close to the screen today. Let me just back up, like a Limp Bizkit song before I mess this track up. Anyway, here we are. We are here tonight on NXT Deadline Preview. One of our favorite brands at Rest of Royalty is NXT, so it's always a pleasure to be talking about the black and gold brand, if that's what you can still call it. I've got Sam ready and waiting on the line. I'm going to bring him in just a second, but you know what time it is to start. And as if by magic, here is Sam himself. How are you doing, man? How's it going?
It's like Narnia. No, I'm good. And I liked your double Limp Bizkit reference that we got there. Like, mess this track up and all that. It takes me back to being 14 and then turning it down when my parents were hovering in the airing cupboard because I knew I didn't want them hearing the swearing. They're like, oh, isn't he good listening to his nice music? And it's like the bloody hot dogs on. So, but yeah, there we go. I like that. I appreciate that. It makes me feel old, though. It makes me feel old.
Talking about appreciating things, I appreciate the hell out of your festive jumper, your festive wrestling jumper that you've got on there.
Oh, I got a ton of these. You won't believe how many of these I've got. Even I don't know. But this one is a Bray Wyatt Yowie Wowie, the Fiend Christmas jumper, and I think in honor of Bray, I'll be wearing this one Christmas Day. Again, like anyone who knows me well knows I'm a devout atheist, but I think Christmas is great fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy the whole everything about it. I'm for, so I still engage in Christmas jumpers very much so.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you being here as well. And of course, we are going to be talking about NXT Deadline 2023, which is coming tomorrow night. And it's a big card for an NXT show. And it's also the last premium live event of the year. So I thought it would be remiss of us not to cover the last one of the year. And look who's in the comments, lurking around is Mr. Danny Hargreaves. Dan, you are more than welcome to join us, my friend. As always, I really enjoyed. I was going to say the threesome that we had going on last week, but that would be the wrong turn of phrase. I enjoyed.
No, it was great fun. It was satisfying.
And of course, last week, if you want to go back and watch it, we were talking about the women of the WWE and how strong that roster is at the moment. And yeah, both Sam and Danny were big fans of the women's roster as well. So go back and check that out if you haven't already watched it. Of course, we also got some other streams from a few weeks ago where we've had talk about CM Punk triple threat. That would be the better way to explain that. Yeah, absolutely, Danny. Yeah, but if you want to make it another triple threat, you're more than welcome to. We just need a few more to be able to have our own Iron Survivor Challenge match. But we could introduce people every 5 minutes like they're going to do as well. Don't worry, we are going to go into all the rules. I've had to get a nice slide ready because it's a very difficult match to figure out.
We're talking about wrestling still. Sorry, I thought we were still talking about menage a trois. But to carry on.
Oh, what? Just adding people in every 5 minutes? It just becomes.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, that's commitment.
Sort of orgy.
Go to the back of the line. You're done.
I also don't know, would that word orgy get you kicked off of YouTube or demonetized? I'm not monetized anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So
no, well, if you're not monetized, you're golden. They're not going to ban you for saying the word orgy.
Do you know how I could get monetized? If people hit that subscribe button, bang, there's the first one. Anyway, yes, we've got we've got Sam on from Give Me a Hug. As always, we've got Danny in the comments. As he might join us. We'll see what happens while Sam slurps his tea. But let me put this on here. And before we get into the matches of the night, because there are a fair few, I'm going to ask you a question. How do you think NXT is getting on these days? Because we're heading into the back end of the year. Well, back end of the year. We're in the last month of the year. Let me know, what's your opinions on NXT?
Sorry, I'm giggling because you said back end. I've had a drink. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. Like, I go up and down with NXT, and it's not my fault. It's theirs. It's that I think I feel like they've been better, more interesting NXT pay-per-views in this year at least. But the fact that we're not getting a proper main roster pay-per-view until the Royal Rumble, which I can't wait for, means I am kind of viewing this with a little bit more prestige than I sometimes do. I love NXT. I've been an NXT fan since day one, but it's this era of it is very up and down for me. I find myself fast forwarding things that either make me cringe or that I've seen 1,000 times before. But at the same time, I'm a massive supporter of it. And I'm very much looking forward to watching this on Sunday morning. Got the house to myself for a few hours. So I'll have an orgy. Then I'm going to watch NXT. And I've also then got the Impact show to watch as well. So I'm actually quite excited this weekend. I feel like Impact, it's this weekend is all about NXT and Impact for me. So, well, yeah, kind of like the guys who are a little bit underappreciated, like the big AEW pay-per-views and the big WWE pay-per-views get their time in the sun. But I'm kind of liking that I've got 2 shows to watch this weekend. But I love NXT. I want it to succeed, but not everything works for me, if I'm being honest. And that includes
I see what you mean, but at the same time, I'd say that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if they can kind of have things that hit and miss, at least as long as they acknowledge what's missing and they do try and solve that, then that's a great thing. And this is the place you should be doing it, away from Raw and SmackDown, because NXT's, I very much doubt, as much as I love it, it's ever going to reach the viewing figures that you have on Raw and you have on SmackDown, purely because it's not pushed by the networks the way that those 2 shows are. It doesn't have the heritage yet as they do, but I think I'm right in saying next year is the 10-year anniversary of NXT. Could be wrong there.
Oh, wow. Cool. That's awesome.
So I've got big plans for the channel to kind of do more with NXT. I'm planning on going back and watching some of the old takeovers, some of the old Black and Gold era, and even further back than that of the kind of weekly show as well, because for me, NXT for a little while was actually what was keeping me really interested in wrestling. So I'll always have a soft spot. And I firmly believe since maybe July-ish this year, I think it's been the most consistent in terms of what to expect from it. Sometimes you get a good Raw, sometimes you get a terrible Raw. I mean, that has been getting better. SmackDown's been similar. Whereas with NXT, you're very much a case of like you're solidly going to get a 7 out of 10 at least every week, in my opinion.
See, I don't know. Sorry, Karen, mate. Sorry.
No, I know there's certain things that don't resonate with you, like the Chase University stuff in particular, and some people love that, some people hate that. But then when you see it play out at things like Stand and Deliver, that was actually a great match. It was quite an entertaining way to kick off that event. So it has its place. It really does. Sometimes it's a bit much having it every week, though. So I kind of understand from that perspective. We are going to delve in. Danny has put a comment in. NXT have been doing some great things for a while. I've seen some great matches and characters getting developed and being utilized very well. We'll come on to that fact as well, is that they are getting developed. And probably for the first time in a long time, there's now almost like a clear pathway where you can take what you've done in NXT and actually deliver it onto the main roster, which hasn't ever really been the case on a grand scale. You might get the odd 1 or 2 who get to do it. Now it's probably the way around, where you can take what you've got. They'll talk about it on the main roster as well now, and everything's a little bit more streamlined. We do have our kickoff match, which kind of feeds nicely into Dan's message here. Axiom has blown up from being a kid in NXT UK, has a great character, and there's still mystery behind the character itself. So this is going to be on the kickoff show to kick things off, obviously. How do you think these guys in particular, because these are graduates from NXT UK that went defunct and a few people got moved across. These 2 guys in particular seem to be showcased quite well in NXT UK, and now they're getting showcased here. What's your opinion in terms of Nathan Frazer and Axiom?
Well, just before I do, because it wouldn't be me if I didn't. Yeah, like just before I do, because for me, the most consistent and the best NXT time was the time when they were calling up people like Asuka and Shinsuke and stuff like that. Back then, an NXT call-up meant something. It was really, really exciting. Success wasn't guaranteed, but it was more than likely. This was before the era where I dreaded someone being called up. There was an era where I don't dread it anymore. I feel like that's like those days are gone, which is great. But it's still not the Kevin Owens, the Finn Balor's, the Roman Reigns, the Seth Rollins, like the hit after hit, the Samoa Joes, the hit after hit after hit that we used to get. That seems to, I don't know what they were doing back in the day, in the black and gold era, before, and this is way before NXT 2.0. It was something went wrong around 2018, I think, 2019, around that kind of time, before the pandemic. Like, we had a time where NXT was at its absolute apex. And I'm not saying it can't get there again, but I certainly don't think we've been there since. Not in the current era, not in the weird 2.0 era. I'm not feeling it like it, because back then, I agree, NXT was the thing that kept me interested. I'd watch a Raw that I wasn't feeling, and then I'd watch NXT and I was like, oh, thank God for NXT. And I feel like the main roster has got a bit more like that, but NXT is now kind of stuck in this college era where it doesn't know if it wants to be developmental, or I just want it to go back to being almost not a carbon copy, but I feel like when NXT was good, it was kind of doing Ring of Honor, better than Ring of Honor. And that's when it was amazing. And I feel like it's kind of like lost the whole strong style matches and all that cool stuff. And it's gone way more into sports entertainment. And I think, and I'm probably of the realization that I'm never going to feel about it the way I used to feel about it. Because of some of the silliness that's on there now. And I feel like every time there's something, for everything that I enjoy on NXT and get my teeth into, there's something I have to fast forward because I just can't bear it. But I don't feel as much like that about the main roster as I used to.
That's probably anyway, swings and roundabouts to an extent, because you've got Triple H, who was the one who delivered that time period that you're talking about.
Yeah,
he's now on the main roster, so he's kind of bringing what used to be that feel of, let's concentrate more on the wrestling, let's make them like people that you root for rather than kind of like delve into a character or a story. Like going back at, you'd have Undisputed Era, they weren't really characters, they were just themselves, and they were like, a group of people. And then you'd have Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and yet he was the ultimate underdog sort of thing versus the complete and utter like douchebag,
Sicilian psychopath.
Yeah, but he didn't have to do anything, like too silly with it. He just, in fact, dialed it all the way back to zero, and people couldn't buy T-shirts, and he didn't have any, entrance music and things like that. But date-wise, I think there's maybe a slight discrepancy. I think it was actually probably was the pandemic era that really harmed NXT more than others, because they got uprooted because their spiritual home was Full Sail University. They cancelled that. They had to move into the same place where Raw and SmackDown was. It didn't feel much different. And NXT,
I was all right with that era. Because it was kind of still the same kind of vibe. So it didn't lose it for me. It lost it for me when in this, like, it could get it back, but for me, I don't know. I'm not feeling it like I used to, where I feel like the main roster's gone on this. For me, it's Triple H. For me, that's what it's about. And it's not that I'm saying only Triple H can book it, but I do kind of wish it's some of the silliness, it's some of the sports entertainment. It's the whole, I feel like I'm watching Saved by the Bell when I watch NXT, which is an antiquated reference. Undeclared, what else? I feel like I'm watching a high school soap opera. And I get this, the soap opera aspect of wrestling is so important, but can we just remember when we're writing skits for NXT that they're meant to be professional fighters and not cheerleaders or jocks in a locker room? Or I feel like the High School Musical thing. I'm not feeling it.
But people are still obsessed with the Attitude Era, and when you look back at the characters they had there, they had a demon who was obsessed with fire. You had
love it.
Undertaker parlor, and it's very difficult to then go, well, I liked all that kind of hokey stuff and the characters from there. You had Mankind and everyone who had a different kind of like outlandish character, but then we don't like it in NXT. Like,
it's not the same. You can't. I think like if you're going to compare, and I know we have to get back to Axiom and Nathan Frazer and Charlotte and Mo, but I feel like with NXT you can't compare the two. The Attitude Era blew up because of the characters were, again, like the stuff you go back and you watch in the Attitude Era and it'll make you bite your nails and cringe. But for everything that's awful in the Attitude Era, and there's some stuff for every Mae Young giving birth to a hand. There's Stone Cold doing 316. I just kick your ass. And again, NXT sometimes has some great characters, some great matches. But for me, I'm 36 and I don't want to watch Saved by the Bell. I want to watch NXT. And that's my main issue with NXT at the moment. And I don't get why this high school vibe. Maybe they're trying to appeal to people younger than you and I. That might be the case. And if so, fair enough. Is it working? Because if it's not, do something else. But I want them to I'll book it like it's the backstage of UFC, or book it like it's the backstage of the main roster. But it's just this. It's the young adult thing that's throwing me. I just feel like it's not being created for me as an audience. And I'm one of the people, and you and a lot of other fans, who made NXT what it was in terms of supporting it and loving it. I don't know. That's the difficulty I have. I want to love it, but I have to be honest. But anyway, I'll
let me know in the comments if you agree with Sam, or if you think he's completely wrong, or if you're somewhere in between, because it's fine. Like, it's great to have opinions on it, and I'm sure there'll be people who do love it. There'll be some people who are kind of indifferent towards it. And there'll be people who just outright hate it as well, and just want to watch Raw and SmackDown and not really care that there's a third brand or a development of brand or whatever you want to call it. So let us know in the comments, where do you land on that? Is it kind of high schoolish? Is there too much emphasis on maybe a bit silliness and not enough on like serious wrestling like it used to be in the black and gold era? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button as well while you're there. We are going to talk about this match now, I promise.
Yeah, sorry. I hijacked the stream. But yeah, anyway.
Nathan Frazer in this match, as you can see, if you aren't kind of au fait with NXT, Nathan Frazer is the gentleman on the left-hand side with the long hair. Axiom is on the right, who used to be in NXT UK, was a kid, who is from Spain. So this is a sort of European clash. And these are two guys I said that came across from NXT UK. They've been doing all right for themselves in terms of screen time on NXT. So what do you reckon? Nathan Frazer, Axiom, how are they translating across on NXT right now?
I think one of them, for the love of God, needs to turn heel. That is my. I don't want to be negative because both these guys are so insanely talented. But I feel like I've seen the babyface versus babyface, Axiom versus Nathan Frazer a million times now, and I'll do it again because it's not going to be a bad match. But I mean, where I get their mates and it's a rivalry, but how many times can you beat up your friend and one of you then not be some? One of them needs to turn heel, or they need to stop booking them against each other. That is how I feel about this. I feel like it'd be better if they were both up against a heel, because I don't know where this is going. It'll be a great showcase of two high-flying, talented dudes, but I feel like that I'm at the point where if this was on TV, I'd fast-forward it. But because it's on a pay-per-view, I'm going to watch it to see if something cool happens.
Yeah. We've got Tom in the house from Tom.
Hey up, Tom.
Always appreciate you stopping by on a Friday evening with everyone else as well. I hope you're having a great start to your weekend, buddy. Keep up the good work, and you can go watch Tom's interview with Sean Ross Sapp. Easy for me to say, one of the biggest names in wrestling journalism, or whatever you kind of want to call it. But if anyone is kind of heralded as top dog, it's either probably Dave Meltzer or Sean Ross Sapp. And the latter, you can go see an interview with Tom on his channel. So go follow Tom Talks Rubbish on YouTube. And give that a like and a subscribe while you're there as well.
Just to put over Tom one more time, we met Sean Ross Sapp in London at Money in the Bank, Andy and I, and he knew who Tom was, but he didn't know who we were. So that says it all, Tom. You are so over. So there you go.
Yeah, and you can go check out my interview. You can go check out with all of the guys from Give Me a Hell Yeah, because we've all been on that channel as well. And as Dan says, go catch his interview before he blows up to megastar status on his Monday Night Raw watch-alongs. Him and his snacks that you can catch up on Monday night, as I say, or Tuesday morning, whichever you want to call it. Anyway, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with this one, because this week on NXT they did start to have this match, and it was interrupted by the women's participants in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge match. They all kind of like were brawling before they came into the ring, messed this match up, which is why we've got it again, but this time on the kickoff. Great to see a match on the kickoff show as well. I'm a big fan of having matches back on there. It's been too long. They need to consistently do it, especially on the main roster as well. So I hope this is the start of it coming back. I think did they have a match on Survivor Series as well?
I believe so. Yeah, I think they've been listening to us. So they're clearly bringing it back as you and I.
If they want people, because to be honest, my impression or my opinion on kickoff shows was, I watch the pay-per-views, premium live events, whatever you want to kind of call them, and get really excited to watch the videos before the match, because it gets me really hyped for the match. It's a great lead-in. But when you're showing all of them on the main show, it kind of ruins the momentum a little bit for me. And I know there's this big thing about Peacock subscribers, and if they're in America, they have advertising ones and non-advertising ones, depending on what tier you bought in, and they kind of put the videos on there now. So it's a bit of a mess. But for me personally, from my perspective, I want to hear legends talk about it amongst maybe one or two matches, because it also helps people, get the crowd warmed up. It helps just get the atmosphere building a little bit more as well. So
and it's mania, like when you're at the pay-per-views and a match starts. Like, you got to remember, if you're in the crowd, in the live crowd, you don't see all the Booker T and whoever else chatting about. But when a match begins, the kickoff show begins, that's when you start, the excitement sets in. There's nothing else like that. Otherwise, you kind of just sit there like me and the boys did at Mania, and you're drunk as a skunk by the time the main show begins.
Yeah, you get some weird DJ playing sort of mix of like Nakamura's theme tune with some rave and dance songs. It's all a bit bizarre, but you don't really get the kind of vibe of what the TV viewers are seeing, so it's a bit annoying. Obviously,
I love watching a police show. I love watching.
They don't want the echo. I get that, but yeah, give us a match, keep that going. Give us a couple of matches on the WrestleMania pre-show, and everyone will be happy. But who are you going to go for on this one, just to finish this one off?
I'm going to go with Frazer, because I think he's had more TV time recently. And I think he's also, like, he had a bit of an issue with Ilja Dragunov, because he said something that got misconstrued, and Dragunov just kicked the ever-loving crap out of him. I think Frazer might turn heel, and I think they might, because he had his news channel. I don't know if they've dropped that, but I love the idea.
Regular. It seems to be like every so often they'll pull it out. It's a bit weird.
AEW did this QTV segment, and the whole joke was they were laughing at all these weird new TV stations that have popped up in America and the UK, like Newsmax, Talk TV, GB News. They were laughing at these far right channels where they just talk disinformation, and they even called it QTV. I mean, QAnon. They were having a pop at that. And I think now that's died a death, because QT Marshall has left the company. There's a space in wrestling for somebody else, because it could be a good gimmick, like somebody pretending to be a crap newscaster who's angry, just using it to tear down his opponents. I think Frazer would be excellent at that. So if they kind of kept that gimmick going but made him a heel, I think there's way more longevity in that, and I do kind of think that is sort of what I want to see. It might not work. It might be bollocks, but I do sort of think that I think one of them needs to turn heel, and I think the number one contender for that is Frazer, because again, we can't just keep going with these babyface versus babyface matches when it's the same kind of thing every time. As talented as both men are.
Yeah, and I'm sure in this match you're going to see a lot of high-flying action. Both guys are brilliant on the top rope, very athletic. So expect this to be fireworks from the off, because they're no slouches, put it that way. This is harken back to the days of like a cruiserweight era, because both guys can move and move very well. I'm going to go for Nathan Frazer in this one as well. I just think he's maybe got a bit more of a rounded character, and I agree. Something in the offing in terms of his personality needs to change a little bit, but he's got a couple of strings to his bow now, and this will just add to it.
Final point.
Yes.
Final point. Axiom is a superhero, and a superhero is nothing without a good supervillain. We need, and the best supervillains are good guys gone bad.
Fair enough.
People's superhero has a close relationship with, like the Harry Osborns or the Spider-Man. Look at Spider-Man. All of his main enemies are either his father figures or his teachers, or people who've looked out for him. And I think if they can lean into that a bit, they might do a better job than they did with Ricochet when they went down that road.
Good point. Fair enough. I did say at the top of this, I'm going to have to explain the Iron Survivor Challenge match. They haven't put a nice graphic out this year so far, so I'm going to presume that they're sticking with the same rules and they're not going to change it too much. But the rules of the Iron Survivor Challenge are a bit of a mix-up of a few different matches that I believe people like Impact have done, and you've seen it on WWE as well, where we'll talk about how the format helps different people. But 25-minute time limit with 5 superstars competing to become the number 1 contender. So we've got a male and a female, or women's and a men's, whatever you kind of want to call it, matches throughout the night. I think it's going to start with the women's one. We'll go through who's in that and the next one. The men's one could bookend that at the end, but we've also got a championship match that could get a bit messy. Anyway, 2 superstars will start the match. Every 5 minutes thereafter, a new superstar enters until all competitors are in the ring. So heavily favors the people who start the match, rather than normally what you get in gauntlet matches is it helps the people at the end because they're fresher. Whereas here you get a little bit more time to get a pinfall or 2 under your belt. Falls can be won at any time via pinfall, submission, or disqualification. And when a superstar scores a pinfall or submission or disqualification, they'll earn 1 point. The losing one, who's either been disqualified, pinned, or submitted, they go in a shark cage thing at the side. They call it a penalty box. They have to stay in there for 90 seconds before they can re-enter the match. We did see last year people were just getting chucked in there and trying to keep them in for a little bit. So they do come into play not just for the penalty box, but they can try and trap them in there for a little while, and that seems to be quite prevalent. And the superstar who scores the most falls when the clock hits 25 minutes will be named the Iron Survivor and become the number 1 contender for the NXT Championship or the NXT Women's Championship. So it feels a little bit like an Iron Man match, but a multi-man Iron Man match with a little bit of a sort of Royal Rumble thrown in as well. What was the one that they did on Impact that was quite similar to this?
Oh, I think they call it a gauntlet match. I could be wrong. They Impact mix it up a little bit more. They're a bit more experimental. I'm just going to quickly nip through a wee, Andy. Sorry.
No worries. While you're away, why wouldn't you bring back the Championship Scramble? I think it would be more exciting to say that someone like Dom Mysterio is NXT champion and North American champion at the same time. Yeah. Are you referring to the one where Mick Foley had it for a little while? I can't remember if that was like a 6-pack challenge or something they called it. But yeah, they've had a couple that are a little bit along the same lines. But I think they're going to kick off. I can only ever go in the order that I think is going to happen with the card. So this is the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge match. And I'll go from left to right, just in case you don't know who everyone is. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see Kelani Jordan. Next to her, you see Lash Legend. Then you see Tiffany Stratton, Blair Davenport, and then on the far right-hand side, Fallon Henley, who won her match on Tuesday night to make sure she was in here as the final challenge or final contender, whatever it was. But this is the field of 5 people. So one of these women will become the NXT Women's number 1 contender, which is slightly strange at the moment because you've had the Breakout Championship tournament has happened. So you do have Lola Vice knocking around with a guaranteed shot at any title she wants. So yes, they will become number 1 contender, but would they become number 1 contender if Lola Vice is there? A little bit messy on that front. But Yeah, it's an interesting one with that dynamic. I quite like having Lola Vice buzzing around, but also not knowing she's going to go for a different championship. But it's a good field of a bit of a mix of people who are a little bit more established in Tiffany Stratton, Blair Davenport, who's very technically gifted and has been to, like the likes of Japan, mixed in with a couple of the sort of up and coming stars, let's say, for the women's division. Then you've got, let's say, like Kelani Jordan, I think was the first time we really saw her was in the breakout tournament. Lash Legend has had her like gimmick of being a talk show host. Now she's in the Metaphor, along with Noam Dar. And then we've got Fallon Henley, who has been knocking around, obviously, with the tag team as well. So she's been around for a little while, but never really had a good shot at a championship. I quite like Fallon Henley. I think she's got a good gimmick. She looks fantastic in terms of like her presentation. And I think she's improved over the last year or two as well. Obviously, the favourite here is probably Tiffany Stratton or Blair Davenport. What do you reckon?
I want to see Tiffany Stratton win this because I think it'd be great to kind of go into the next big pay-per-view or the next big era with her chasing Lyra Valkyria, because the Valkyria reign isn't doing it for me at the moment, but at the same time, it might be more fun to see someone like Blair Davenport or Fallon. Like Fallon Henley's had a lot of TV time in the past year or two, but this isn't a criticism of her. She's never really got to that point yet. And I'm not saying it's her time to be the champion, but it might be her time to be in a good story. But I do kind of like the idea of Tiffany Stratton winning and her screwing over somebody like Fallon Henley. Or maybe her screwing over Blair Davenport and this turning Davenport into some kind of babyface, but a dark avenging babyface, someone who might, like seeing a feud between them two could be quite fun. Especially if, do you know what I mean? Like some kind of turn Blair face, but an angry, mean face. Because anyone up against Tiffany Stratton is ultimately the baby face, because Tiffany Stratton is so good at being a bitch. In terms of Lash Legend, I think she certainly hasn't peaked. I'm sure there's lots more to come from her. But I think this whole thing with the Metaphor is working right now. So let's not break it.
Really entertaining match, by the way, on Tuesday against Alpha Academy, where she did the slam on Otis, where she did a power slam. Was it power slam? Body slam on Otis, which was really cool.
You've gone really quiet, Andy.
I've gone quiet. Oh no.
Yeah, it's like your mic's gone not muted, but really, really quiet.
2 seconds.
Oh, you're back. You're loud again. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you do, don't touch it. We're good. Whatever's happened, you're good.
Yeah, we saw a great match, Metaphor versus Alpha Academy on Tuesday night, where Lash Legend managed to body slam Otis, which was a cool moment.
Yes, I think he enjoyed it too much.
He's not a small chap. I don't know who do you reckon who do you think's walking out here? Obviously, they're all walking out. Who do you think's walking out as the winner?
Yeah, they're all. I won't be too sure. And I just the girl on the left. I'm not gonna lie. What is it? Something Jordan.
Kelani Jordan.
Like I can't. Sounds awful, but I actually can't even remember her name yet. So that suggests to me she needs to do more.
This is a good spot for her, then. To be fair,
yeah, this is the way to do it. But yeah, I think Stratton's winning. But Stratton's going to screw over someone like Henley or Davenport. I think they're going to be the real winner, and she's going to steal the win, and that's your feud going forward. I think that'd be fun. She can't win clean, or if she does win clean, then Lyra Valkyria, get ready because she's coming for you, basically.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout because we kind of didn't get to see that match properly, although we have seen that match properly when it was the other way around and Tiffany was the champion and beat Lyra in that. But then obviously whatever happened with Becky Lynch and it kind of went a different way. I think Blair Davenport's winning this, but I think there'd be a very strong showing for me from Fallon Henley. And I think Fallon and Tiffany have had a long sort of standing rivalry that will bubble over here, because I believe that did they not have a match at Halloween Havoc on one of the nights, and it's never really been completely finished off. But they seem to be having a bit of a rift, because Fallon dressed up as Tiffany and kind of copied her mannerisms and stuff. So I'm going to go with Blair Davenport, because I think it's about time she gets a title shot, as I don't believe she's had one so far.
I'm going to go with Tiffany, because I don't think they should have taken it off her. I say keep it on her forever. Let her just become the ultimate bitch, the Mandy Rose heir apparent, and just let this girl cook, because she's just bloody brilliant.
I did find the this kind of skit that they had, the summit, was quite funny when Byron lost his cool. That he said you weren't going to do this, when they all started shouting over each other. Well done, Byron Saxton. Dan, it was Unforgiven 2008. Brian Kendrick was WWE champion, but not officially recognised, because I don't think they did it at that time. They weren't doing it within the match. It was whoever kind of finished it off with the belt. Let's move on to a match which has kind of hastily been changed. It was originally scheduled to be Dirty Dom Mysterio versus Sam's favourite name in all of wrestling, Mr. Wesley. But unfortunately, and quite heartbreakingly, Wesley cut a promo on Tuesday night explaining that he's got to have some back surgery, and it's going to keep him out a long time. And the kind of diagnosis at the moment, I believe, is 8 to 12 months he's going to be out for. He came out with quite a hefty sort of walking stick, crutch, whatever you want to call it, and cut a very emotional promo saying he won't know. This isn't goodbye, but he doesn't know when we'll see him again. Just wishing Wesley a very speedy recovery. I think he's ultra talented, and for me, is probably one of the three in NXT that I think is going to have a big future in the company, along with Bron Breakker and Carmelo Hayes. I would put Wesley up there as well. So it's such a shame for him to have his comeback curtailed not long after coming back from injury. So speedy recovery to Wesley if he ever gets a chance to watch this. Which leaves us with a different matchup, which is Dom Mysterio versus Dragon Lee. And Dragon Lee's going to have Rey Mysterio in his corner. It'll be interesting to see if we have Rhea Ripley this weekend or not, or if she'll be elsewhere. Dan says this is the match I am most interested in, because it should be bell to bell exciting. Do you go along with that? Is this the match that's got your heart racing, your blood pumping?
No, don't get me. I think it should be great. Oh, by the way, with the whole Wesley thing, next time I chat to Trey Miguel, I've spoken to Trey Miguel a couple of times. We always have a bit of a giggle, especially when he told me about him doing Suck It at school and what happened. That was really funny. WrestleSphere, by the way, go and watch that interview. It's just he and I giggling. But yeah, so I might just say to him, Wes, go and watch Wrestling Royalty. Go and see what we said about you. So who knows? It's not out of the realms of possibility that he'll see it. But yeah, no, this is going to be ace. Mysterio has to retain, because Dragon Lee's been kind of put into the spot because somebody else couldn't be. The same thing weirdly happened on Raw and SmackDown. Wouldn't it be cool and meta if Dragon Lee is like going around attacking people to get their spots, and this is really just one long-winded heel turn for Dragon Lee to take opportunities for other people, and Dragon Lee is the real villain here. I mean, this stuff writes itself, WWE. Lean into it. But yeah, no, I think Mysterio is walking out of this. Mysterio needs to lose this title before we head to WrestleMania. But right now, this is fire. Let's not take it off him until the Judgment Day implode, whenever that may be. I predict before Mania. But right now, sorry, Dragon Lee, you're going to look $1 million, mate, but Dirty Dom's walking out of it.
If, out of interest, if this had been Wesley and not Dragon Lee, there's too many Lees around, by the way, who do you think would that have changed your opinion, or would Dom have kept it?
I think we might have seen a Wesley heel turn or something like that. Maybe not, but I think Wesley would have lost, and that would have sent him to some kind of dark place, made him think, why can't I win? Do I need to perhaps be a little bit like we were in the Rascal days, where me and the boys would Because even if they ever cheated, they were still baby faces, but they were like, it was okay for them to cheat on occasion. Do you like when it was okay for Bullet Club?
Yeah, they're kind of mischievous little scamps, I guess.
Yes, because they were Bullet Club. That's what Bullet Club do. It, a little bit with the Rascals, but that was in Impact. This is a very different world. But I think Dominik Mysterio was always holding on to this. I think when Dominik does lose this, I think it needs to because he hasn't got any Judgment Day helping him out. It needs to contribute to the collapse of the Judgment Day, and we're not there yet. That's what I think about this.
All right, we've got Mark in tonight. How's it going, Mark? I was going to say hey, Mark, and make a bit of the Room reference. I'm not sure if everyone would have got it or not. Anyway, good to have you in, mate. Talk of Tyler Bate being called up to the main roster. There is. We'll get to Tyler Bate because he's in a match later on in this night, or in my card order anyway. So we will get to Tyler Bate. We'll explain a little bit about those rumors that are circulating, but certainly just rumors at the moment. I think he's got a little bit more to do on NXT personally, but we'll get to that. I'm not sure on this match. With Rey Mysterio being in his corner, I think this might actually be Dragon Lee's time to win the belt. Personally, because he's had a couple of shots before, he's been close before, not actually got it. I think he's very purposely been put in rather than anyone else, because Dragon Lee's actually on SmackDown a lot these days. He's going to be on tonight. I believe he's in the US title tournament against.
That's why I don't think he's winning. I think they've got main roster plans for Dragon Lee factored in. They've put him in here because they know it'll be a good match and they can get some storyline out of it with Ray and Dom. I think it writes itself. I think it's a cracking idea to have Dragon Lee here, but they've got plans for Dragon Lee that don't involve this championship. And this is actually a gift wrap present from God, because it furthers several storylines in one go.
I'm not sure on that one, because they could technically, I think they like to showcase one of the NXT belts on the main roster, and obviously at the moment with it being on Dom, the North American one is. And I like the design. I think it's really cool. And I think they just like having that on there, and they'll shift to more belts. But in this one, if you think about it from the point of view that if you give this to Dragon Lee, and then I think he's beating Santos tonight because I think Carlito will get involved and Dragon Lee will win, then how big and how special does he look if he has an NXT North American Championship and is fighting for the US title as well? People will be like, oh, this guy's actually someone I need to pay attention to. So there's a way of building Dragon Lee up very quickly by giving him the belt here and then featuring it again on the main roster. So I wouldn't say it's quite as cut and dry as it might appear by having a last minute replacement in, but who knows?
It depends, I think, where they're going with Judgment Day. Like if they're gonna start, because we saw Damian Priest has been quite erratic and insecure in recent weeks. So if they can keep that up, then great. Then yeah, this is the time to take it off Dom. I think it all depends on that wider story. But if they're sticking around until after the Royal Rumble, we're talking Elimination Chamber time. I'd say Fastlane, but they've already done Fastlane. Then yeah, but if not, then now Dom needs to carry this on for a while longer, because he's the ultimate douchebag in the company right now, and that is actually a superpower for whoever ends up beating him.
True,
in my view, on NXT, and I also kind of like the idea of either Trick or Mello being the ones to beat him, furthering their rift, taking one of them to the promised land while the other one isn't, and kind of teasing that until, let's be honest, they're facing each other at Stand and Deliver.
Quite possibly. So, we'll move on to that. It's coming up. There's a couple of comments there. Dan would love to see possibly Axiom in Dragon Lee's position. It would be building Axiom in a big match. Yep. Maybe he was a candidate if he wasn't in that kind of Nathan Frazer pre-show match. Anyway, Mark would love. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll go back because there's another one that kind of leads in. Tyler Bate and Gallus should be on the main roster. I think Gallus would be aligned to Drew McIntyre. Drew definitely seems to be going down that sort of paranoia kind of schizophrenic. It's more paranoia, I guess. Paranoid, but very relatable reason why he's doing the things he's doing. And maybe he thinks, actually, the bloodlines mess me over. Judgment Day, are always threatening to mess me over. I need some backup of my own, and that's maybe how they bring Gallus in.
I'm just saying, like Drew McIntyre right now, I know he's meant to be a heel. He's the biggest baby face on the roster, as far as I'm concerned. No one has ever made this much sense.
I'm currently writing a feature about that, whether it's Dastardly Drew or Maverick McIntyre. Like, is he actually a sympathetic villain? Because really, like, he's very strong in the sense of like what his beliefs and viewpoints are. And when you go back and watch it, yeah, I'd say Drew is actually not as bad a heel. Maybe he is after Monday, after attacking Sammy in the way he did, because that was a bit too far. So that might have been his actual turn to being a heel.
Sorry, Sammy deserved it. Shouldn't have mentioned his family. What are you doing? What are you doing, Sami Zayn? Like, nah. So right now, McIntyre. This is like when Kevin Owens was the biggest heel on the roster, but every feud he got in, he was morally in the right, and factually in the right. And I was like, how is Kevin Owens the heel here?
Look at all the kind of great villains, especially as you mentioned Marvel earlier on. Look at the fact that Thanos is a he's a relatable villain because his reasoning is quite sound as to why he wants to do what he wants to do. So I'm sure we will cover Drew McIntyre a little bit more when we get onto SmackDown.
Don't get me started on Thanos. Thanos just wants to shoot fish in a barrel, and he's dressing it up with what's the word? He's dressing it up with some kind of idea that only he is the savior. It's a messiah complex. Thanos, and in the comics, like Thanos realizes that he is actually the bad guy and always was. But then becomes a bad guy again after the whole Infinity Watch thing. But we won't go there. But yeah, I am like, you make a great point, and you're throwing my words back at me. This is a case of you die the hero, or you live long enough to see yourself turn into the villain. And so this is more, we're going down DC. This is Harvey Dent Two-Face. But yeah,
you come for wrestling, you stay for the comic book chat as well.
Well, yeah, I know my comic book shit, and I just swore, damn it. But anyway, yeah, it's McIntyre right now. It's genius because they've got us having this conversation, and it's brilliant because they're not just making him a mustache twirling heel. There's actually layers to McIntyre. He's sympathetic. This is what heel turn should be. This is exactly what every heel turn should be.
Yeah. But anyway, we are going to be talking now about Roxanne Perez versus Kiana James. And this is a steel cage match as well. So we're not just getting just sort of normal matches and the Iron Survivor matches. We are getting a steel cage match. So they've built this up to be quite the grudge between the two of them, because this goes back quite far, where I don't even remember how it started. I think they were literally just like sort of don't like each other. And then it led into a Halloween Havoc match where it was Devil's Playground. And they sorry, I should explain as well for people who don't know, Roxanne Perez is on the left, Kiana James on the right. I remember Kiana James had that nasty like bump on her head quite early on, and it welted up something rotten. So this is kind of turned into a back and forward that's gone over a fair few weeks. And as Mark says, we've not had Cora Jade in NXT for a long time. She's constantly asked on social media when she's coming back and just says, leave me alone, plays great heel. But Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez have a lot of history. So maybe this is where she comes back in and maybe sides with Kiana James for a little while until she goes out on her own. But a steel cage match in NXT. What's your thoughts here?
I like it, and I love these two as well. I love Roxanne Perez. Would have been nice seeing her as champion for a little bit longer. I think they kind of Indy Hartwelled her. They gave it for 5 minutes and took it off her. And I think I love Kiana James as well. I think that she's a great character. Again, she's an absolute bitch, and I mean that as a compliment. So she's great at doing it. Reminds me of kind of Charlotte and Sasha Banks back in the day. But I thought Kiana James was a better character when she was engaging in deep manipulation of the baby faces, as a little bit like I suspect not Gigi Dolan, the other one is doing at the moment with Chase University. Right now, I feel like Yeah, JCJ. I feel like she's become a little bit of a mustache twirl, and I keep saying it, mustache twirling villain at the moment. And she was better when she was a much more calculated, everything is for my benefit kind of villain. I don't quite understand the gimmick. Like, yes, she's a successful businesswoman who has a little office somewhere that people are breaking into, and it's like, if you are that gimmick, why are you doing this? So be one or the other. You know, have that background, sure, or maybe your family or something own that business. Like, but when you're someone who has a full-time job, we've seen this with bloody Repo Man and Isaac Yankem and all those gimmicks. Live your gimmick or have it as just part of who you maybe were before you made it. I don't know. But yeah, she's this rough around the edge. Both these two are rough around the edges, but both of them are also fantastic at what they do. And I think they both have a bright future. And I do think the storyline here, I kind of want Kiana to win to keep building her as a bad guy, but I feel like I'm doing that to all of the heels. So we need to have a feel-good moment at some point, and maybe that's Roxy beating Kiana.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on this, because I think that, as you kind of alluded to there, Kiana needs a little bit of work on who she is. I've said it before. I think Roxanne Perez has a little bit of an identity problem with being Bayley light or Bayley 2.0 in terms of, hey, I used to watch it a lot when I grew up and now I'm here and it's really cool. But I think it needs more than that. Her back and forth with Cora Jade when she was in it was actually very interesting, because they were building more of a kind of rivalry and one of those ones where we're destined to do this forever. There's another Batman reference. And I think she misses that, and they've been searching for something like this again. And for me, it's a little bit wishy-washy. I can't remember, and I watch NXT every week, why these are in a feud. It just feels a little bit like bitchiness rather than anything else. But I will grant them that they've had great matches and they've done well in them. I think they're both fairly solid in the ring. I do want Roxanne Perez to get a bit of a stronger finish because I don't like pop rocks. It's weird having a sunset flip as a finisher. It just doesn't do enough for me in terms of like believability that it would take someone out. So if it was up to me, she'd get a new finisher, and that would really boost her in my eyes. But they're both in sterling.
I've got an idea. They could lean into the punk rock thing, and they could give her a new finisher called Pop Rocks and Coke, which is a Green Day reference. So they could do that. That'd be.
Do you reckon they'd be allowed to say that?
No, but it'd be great.
Pop Rocks and Pepsi. Maybe that's what they can go.
Yeah, well, they might not be able to say Pop Rocks and Cola. Let's do that.
So yeah. I didn't ask you, who do you think is going to win that?
I kind of, part of me wants Kiana to win it, but I think we have to have a feel-good moment, and we're not going to get many of them on this card. So I think Roxy's winning it because it's her who needs the rub, where Kiana can lick her wounds and go on to just menace somebody else.
Fair enough. I would like also to see Kiana James win, and I wouldn't be against seeing Cora Jade return. This is a bit of a strange one because it's kind of sort of a bit of a meandering style of building up, where it's more Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams and their relationship, but Lexis King has inserted himself into this, and it's quite I don't know. Do you not feel like he's been hot-shotted into this just to try and get him a little bit? What are your thoughts? I'm really interested. Anyone who's watching this, let me know your thoughts on the presentation of Lexis King or Brian Pillman Jr. I'm really interested to see what people are they buying into this? Are they quite, is it something that's hitting? Is it resonating with you? If not, why not? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Mark saying King should win via a stoppage. This might be one of those ones where it's dependent on the card order, whether the men's Iron Survivor Challenge has already been, whether we would see Trick Williams involved or not, because he's got that match as well. So it all gets a little bit confused. But yeah, let me know. Sam, what do you reckon? Are you buying into this weird sort of three-way battle that's going on?
I think I get why they're doing it. So, and I think I've been watching wrestling so long because I can see what they're doing. I'm kind of just going along with it, and I've turned my brain off. So I think Lexis King needs to win for two reasons. One, they brought him in as a massive deal, and if he loses it in his first pay-per-view, well, he's just gone down the toilet. Secondly, the whole thing here is Carmelo Hayes being ground into dust, and the rivalry between him and Trick being building. So even if Trick Williams doesn't get involved or does get involved, this needs to be Carmelo Hayes frustrated, angry, and Lexis King needs to come out of this being able to crow about what he's done, and that to carry on for a few weeks. So that's what I think is happening. I don't know if I'm into it or not. I'm certainly into the whole Trick and Mello issue building. Like, definitely. Of course, that's a cracking idea. But I think Lexis King is just here to get over as a villain and help stoke some issues between these two. I don't think it goes any deeper than that. And I think it ends after tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, I think he gets kind of like taken out of the equation of what's building into a Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes. But out of interest, I'll ask you another question to you, and just yes or no, or which way you think it's going to go. Who would you prefer to see as the heel in Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes?
Now I've thought about this longer on my own than I should have done. I really have. Like back in the day when Mello was, him. I loved the idea. I was just waiting for it. I was waiting, like you and I were in the building, sat just a few seats away from each other, and I remember thinking to myself, like when me and Andy go for a pint after this with Jack, we're gonna be discussing Trick's heel turn. Well, but it never came, and I feel like I've been waiting for it since WrestleMania, and in that time, they've kind of done this with Io and Bailey as well. But in that time, it's kind of changed, and now Mello's the one who's insecure because Trick's kind of come out from under his shadow.
Yeah.
So I think, and let's be honest, we've seen Mello work as a heel before, and when he did, he was great, and Trick was just a minion. So what is it going to look like when Mello is the same, kind of the similar heel that he was, but his target is his former minion? So I think it makes all like dramatic sense. It does make sense for Trick to be the babyface. Because they also, like, if Trick turns heel and then gets defeated by Hayes, then they don't really create any of the stars. They just kind of keep Mello as the star, and Trick goes back to the bottom of the card. I think they're trying here to build Trick as a potential big star. And right now, the crowd is behind him so much. Like, they love Mello too, but I think Mello is a little bit more slappable. Where this whole whoop that Trick thing, he could be a massive babyface and could carry the brand one day, and I don't think that's lost on them.
Yeah, when I was actually at NXT last year, and these guys, Carmelo had a match and Trick was just kind of ringside. Even before the match, it was Trick Williams was kind of in amongst all the crowd, and he was kind of responding. I think he knew a few of them, or he kind of introduced himself. Because it's the same crowd that's there most of the time anyway. Don't want to lift the curtain too much, but yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like the obvious route to go down is to make Carmelo the heel, and it turned out, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, yes, it was me that attacked you, and here's the footage that proves it, sort of thing. But the other way they could go down it is to actually maybe make Trick Williams have a little bit of an edge to him, and Carmelo Hayes is absolved of any kind of wrongdoing, but he says, "Well, I told you this the whole time, and I don't get why you didn't have my back, like you said that you would." And then Trick eventually just snaps and goes, "You know what? I don't have to answer to you anymore. There's obviously a reason why we don't get on." Or you just kind of have them mutually go their separate ways, and we don't get what everyone thinks is coming, which is, this big blow off. And it'd be interesting if they do keep it like that. Because I thought both of them would be introduced to the main roster at the same time because they were such a good team. But as you said, Trick Williams has stepped out of the shadow of Carmelo Hayes massively. That intro that he does with his music and Booker T goes, Oh
no! See, I love that. Apart from the Booker thing, no disrespect to Booker, but I'm
I like it. I like it.
Oh, shut up, Booker! I like it. Yeah. I'm like, if I was Vic Joseph, I'd be like, Listen.
No, but it's not. That's why it works.
Booker T, yeah, no, I know it does. It's like your father-in-law doing it. No, Booker T is cooler than I will ever be. So I can't say anything. But I kind of like the idea of Melo getting called up after this feud, if indeed it is a feud, because I never thought of that. Maybe it gets to this point and then they separate again, and I'll come back to that in a second. But but part of me likes the idea of Melo going to the main roster and Trick becoming the People's Prince on NXT. I think that could work quite nicely. But you've actually now put another idea in my head, which is, what if they do that? But this is wrestling; they never do that. But what if they do a situation where they do just mutually go their separate ways, and then they do reconnect on the main roster? Because look, we've got Ciampa and Gargano together on the main roster right now, and it's awesome. That match on Raw the other day was wicked, and it's lovely having them together. But I can't unsee their blood feud that lasted 3 years. So I can never take their friendship seriously, because I know they've legit tried to kill each other. So I know they've stalked each other's houses and have menaced each other's kids and wives and all these things. So I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe they've found that place again, but I feel like them being mates and being DIY again, it feels a bit awkward to me on the main roster. I don't know. I'm still into it, but there's something missing.
It gives it a bit of an edge where I'll enjoy it while it's happening, but at any time it could just explode because they realise.
But if it does, it's eye rolling. That's what my point. If it does, it's like, well, come on, boys.
Did you say that about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Because that's exactly what they've been like.
Well, Kevin Owens is sorry, I need to tie this back to Trick and Melo. I do feel like if they do the whole, they just went their separate ways. They could reunite them on the main roster, or even still on NXT against a common foe. We could have a hug it out moment, because they never came to blows. They never came to that point. They always both maintained their composure and they didn't fight. Brothers argue, but they never came to blows. But this is wrestling, and everybody has to come to blows eventually. Otherwise, it's not wrestling. Speaking of, with Kevin Owens is a scorpion. He's like Randy Orton. Like Randy Orton RKO'd the GM Nick Aldis the other day just because Nick Aldis was stood in the wrong position.
Yeah.
Randy Orton was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Afterwards, it's a case of the scorpion taking the frog across the pond and then stinging him, and the frog says, "Now we're both going to die. Why did you do that?" And the scorpion goes, "Because I'm a scorpion." Duh. That is Kevin Owens and that is Randy Orton. But I don't think that rule applies to Gargano and Ciampa or Trick and Melo.
I do feel though that if you can move Carmelo up, even without this feud, then there's a potential for him when Trick Williams really needs someone in his corner, that eventually he could come back down and just be a corner guy for him and have his back in someone, when he needs it the most, and he can get that pop of going, oh my God, he's going to be in his corner again. So there are a few different avenues. So it'd be interesting to see, does one of them turn heel? Which one turns heel? Do they just kind of go their separate ways and things like that? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see which way that happens. But I think Carmelo Hayes wins this,
Yeah, maybe. I think if they kept, when we thought they were going to do this, if they had kept Trick as the minion and the minion turned on the master, that would have been great, but it would have been typical. I think right now, though, they've now seen more potential in him than they maybe realized they had back then. And people really want to cheer for both of these guys. So do they?
He's so over with that crowd.
Yeah.
Again, it'll be interesting to see on Saturday when they're not in the Performance Center. It's not the same people there. It'd be interesting to see how Trick Williams goes down. But I believe on the last one when they were away, he still got a great reception. So let's see how he does. And also, I think he's improving the ring. He looks $1 million as well. So they're probably a good headache for a change of someone getting themselves over in NXT that wasn't really expected to. Be interesting to see which way they go with that. But
yeah, I'm really invested in that. Really invested. I think that's that and obviously Dragunov's championship reign might be the things that keep me coming back every week. Means I can sit through flipping Chase U because there is, I wasn't failing NXT at the start of this. I do have to be honest. Like, there is stuff in NXT that I adore. Don't think I don't. If I didn't like it, I will watch it. Even with my job necessitating I have to. But it's that when I'm on these streams, I will say what I think. But no, NXT still a force for good. It always has been.
And we love you for speaking your mind as well. But we'll move on because there's not a finite amount of time that we have here. Baron Corbin getting an NXT championship shot in 2023. Who would have thought? But he is here. He's going up against Ilja Dragunov for the NXT championship. Again, he's been in and around, buzzing around wanting a championship shot for a little while. He's finally got it. Do you feel he's like a legitimate challenger? Do you think he's got a chance here, or is this just a case of his Dragunov can build himself up even more?
That promo they did the other night where he was trying to get Dragunov to hit him and do that was amazing. Like, I sometimes think I do sometimes cringe a little bit. I think Dragunov is insanely good in the ring, but I think Dragunov is better when he's not silent but a man of few words.
That's what would be mental. He has to be completely unhinged for me. Just be like.
Well, I thought he was terrible. Did you ever watch the Wembley show Progress Wrestling did? Yeah. Now, Dragunov was one of the most terrifying things on that roster because all that happened is his manager from WXW came out, brought out Dragunov, who just glowered at the top of the rope, then said to the crowd, while Pete Dunne was in the ring, or Butch as we call him these days, was in the ring, and then the manager just went, "Do you want this?" And the crowd erupt because it was just two killers smashing each other. Dragunov didn't say a word. He just looked and grinned. And he was the heel in this story. But it was just two terrifying men going up against each other. And for me, Dragunov is absolutely most frightening when he's got his red contact lenses in. He's smiling menacingly. I don't need to hear him talk about his family. I've seen that before from other people. He does it well. And I believe him, but and the second best Dragunov feud I've ever seen was also in progress, and that was against Cara Noir. And again, not a word uttered between both men. I've said it before, it was psychosexual. It was absolutely
that was proper art house wrestling. That
they loved each other again. But they also had to be the best, and they had to destroy each other, and they were obsessed. And it was unhealthy obsession. Dragunov didn't say a word. He doesn't need to. I don't want to hear him shout and get all angry on the mic because I feel like it sometimes gets a bit cringe. All I want to see Dragunov do is breathe, get redder and redder in the face, and then just commit murder. That is what I want to see. And I think Baron Corbin is the perfect candidate to bring that out of him. Let's just see a psycho babyface champion annihilate Baron Corbin. But I do think Baron Corbin. I don't think this is all about building Dragunov as a superstar to maybe unseat Volta one day, as opposed to the second coming of Corbin, because Corbin already looks awesome in this position. This new gimmick, this whole "I reject all my gimmicks" gimmick is ace. I love Corbin at the moment, but I don't want to see him hold the belt. I want to see him do what he does best, be a foil for the heroes.
Yeah, I would like to see the fans, by the way, in America. They have to get on board with this. When Dragunov does his Unbar Ziegbar thing, please, for the love of God, just say it with him, because it's getting really cringy that you haven't learned it by now.
They're not doing it. They did it the other day.
When he's in the UK, they really know when to hit it with him. But in America, it doesn't seem to have gone across that you can do that with him. So I'm not sure it's one of those ones where we need a UK show to show them what we do when he does it, and then America go, "Oh, okay, I'll do that with him," because it is a catchphrase for him, but it's not caught on.
I wonder if it's a European thing because they do it. A lot of them do it because I heard them last week. But you're right.
I want to hear it more.
It's not thundering like it was in Progress or NXT UK. Yeah,
I get what they're trying to do here, by the way, with these two, but I don't know. This to me is hit home that I just don't think Baron Corbin's the best talker. I think, unfortunately for him, his best gimmick that he's ever had was the bum-ass Corbin one, where he was like down his luck, and it wasn't until they like. I actually thought it was genius what they were doing, and he actually steered really like far into it, and it worked well. And I thought, oh, actually, this is someone I can kind of like want to see what happens next time. But I don't know. There was just some bits on Tuesday night where I just can't believe the words that he's saying. It doesn't hit right. I did make me laugh though when it looked like he was gonna get put through a table, and then Ilja just hugged him, and the kind of expression he had on his face, like going, "What the hell is happening?" was hilarious.
Yeah, it was great.
He does have like chops, but I don't know, like he's got weird sort of almost comedic chops for me. And I never thought I'd say that about Baron Corbin, but yeah, I don't want him to be NXT champion. I don't see how that like in 2023 would go down well for the brand, let alone anyone else. So yeah, not for me. I like the guy. I think he's a good professional. I just don't think he's right for being champion of this brand at this time in his career. So I'm going to go with Dragunov, and I think it absolutely destroys him towards the end. I think Corbin says something to him halfway through the match, and we get Dragunov go full apeshit on him. Do you think Corbin will be better with a mouthpiece doing his talking? Well, as long as it's not JBL like it was.
See, I think he's all right doing his own talking. Just do it sparingly. Just say your insult. Don't make it a long soliloquy. Do you know where Baron Corbin was at his absolute best?
When he was just Corbin?
Yeah, when he was just a thug. When he was just well, like obviously the hair, they fixed the hair, thank Christ. There was a time in the Royal Rumble where he eliminated Braun Strowman, and Strowman's like going at the side of the ring next to him, and Corbin's like, "What? Come on, man!"
Yeah,
that was that like he was not like, the whole thing with the bum ass Corbin and the Constable Corbin and the King Corbin and all the other silliness is he's always been a coward, and I like the idea of him not being a coward. I like the idea of him being a legit threat, and I don't need to hear him talk that much for that. I almost a little bit like they're doing with what's he called, Dijakovic or Dijak. He doesn't need to talk that much. He just needs to be like, now that they've forgotten some of the silliest storylines that they've done with him. Like, are you going to give me your title? It doesn't work like that, Dijak. The fans aren't stupid, mate. Like, you don't just pass titles to each other. But it's like, just do that. Like, he's terrifying. He's a man of few words. Just make Corbin that on the main roster, you know. But the problem with Baron Corbin is he was once overexposed on Raw, and we're all still recovering from that a little bit. Do you remember that?
I think he's still recovering from being one of was he the first one to cash in and not be successful?
I don't think he was the first, but he was.
I think John Cena was the first, but he was the first one to because John Cena called his shot, whereas Baron cashed in and then it went askew on the same time, sort of thing.
It was just bad. It was bad creative. And he suffered from that. Absolutely suffered from. Yeah, with the Cena thing made sense. Like sometimes if a Money in the Bank cash-in fails, it makes sense because it's furthering another story. For example, if Balor costs Priest, it doesn't matter if they've wasted it because they haven't. It's a good story. But they didn't do anything with that Corbin one. It was a burial.
And then you had the stink of retiring Kurt Angle, which he was never the right person to do that, and he should have lost, but it doesn't matter. It's history. But yeah, I think the problem is, as you say, he's been through too many changes. We were overexposed at one point. He's constantly pushed as the wrong thing, whereas when you go back to his early NXT days and on the main roster to start with, his presentation was so much better, and he doesn't need to say anything. Even on the documentary they did, he came across as quite alternative. He used to go into thrift shops and buy all the creepy stuff like stuffed birds and whatever, and he just came across a bit odd. And I'll tell you what, I would pop if he went back to having his old I am the darkness. That was a good song, by the way. That was a banger.
Yeah.
So yeah, bring that back. But yeah, not in 2023. Sorry. And what I think is going to main event, we'll finish off with the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match. Again, I will go from left to right just to make sure everyone knows who we're talking about in case you haven't seen them before. We've got Bron Breakker, who should be a household name by now. We've got Trick Williams, who we've been talking about already. Dijak, who Sam was just talking about, who you might not be very knowledgeable at the moment, is Josh Briggs, who's next to Dijak. And then on the end, look at his little face. It's the big, strong boy. It's Tyler Bate, who we also have been talking about. So drip fed in amongst the entire chat tonight. We've been talking about a few of these already. But let's start with Josh Briggs. Did you find the conclusion a little bit different? Or what's the purpose here?
You don't know this, but Josh Briggs is still very much the reigning but not defending Evolve champion. So I've been a Josh Briggs fan for a very long time, because when Evolve in its final year of life, Josh Briggs was the Braun Strowman of Evolve. And I remember I even tweeted, "My God, could you imagine Josh Briggs versus Braun Strowman?" Because the way they portrayed him is this monster who just didn't talk, just came out, killed people, and went away. If he was he was a heel at times. He was a babyface at times. He was their Brock Lesnar. He was there, he was that. And they brought him to NXT, and they've made him this rootin' cowboy guy who gets into bar fights with his mentally challenged friend. But they're both great. But I mean, look at this guy. He's like 7 foot tall, built like a brick shit house, and he's there going, "Oh, hey, Kiana." I'm not buying it. But anyway,
no, he's with Fallon, isn't he? That's Jensen was with Kiana, and I think Josh is supposed to be with Fallon Henley, but
no, I wasn't talking about Briggs. I was talking about the other guy who Briggs is
Jensen,
with. Yeah, because they've been a package deal, which is great, and they're both really, really good. But when they were one of them was the whole "oh shucks, Kiana." That just made me want to vomit every week. Well, again, Josh Briggs is somebody who I think should be a killer, and they've kind of teased him being a bit meaner recently and not having the same patience for Jensen and things like that. And I'm kind of liking that. Like in Evolve, Briggs had long hair, and he didn't care about what the baby faces thought. Like he once came out and annihilated Matt Riddle because Matt Riddle was a bit too cheeky to him. But he'd also go after Austin Theory and Darby Allin and people like that, or the heels when they got too big for the boots. He was like this Avenger, like Stone Cold Steve Austin in a way. And I missed that Briggs, because that Josh Briggs is a very different Josh Briggs to the one we have now. But my point is that where I'm going with all of this is why he's in this spot. This is why they're pushing him, and they're trying to maybe make him come out of that. The shadow of the little stable that he's in, because there's a lot of indie fans who know who this guy is and what this guy could be, and and come on, WWE, you own Evolve, come on, do something, WWE, do something.
If you can't tell each week, by the way, from what Sam says about Evolve, he was a big fan. So I think, as you say, it'd be nice to do even some sort of reunion show, because they've got enough people from Evolve to do something with it as a sort of ECW one night stand, but do an Evolve one instead.
Well, they did a point. Well, obviously for a while they were going to make Evolve what they kind of turned NXT Level Up into, which is a pointless show. But it's like Evolve. They could. I know. Sorry, I'm getting off topic, but they could with Evolve make a traveling indie show with some of the lower card of NXT. Have it as NXT Evolve and make it like a traveling show where the Evolve stars, the NXT guys, wrestle some people on the indies, and they could do it like they used to do it, which is what Triple H wanted to do originally before Vince kiboshed it. So I'm just of the view that it's a wasted opportunity. Come on, guys. And we had Paul Heyman on that Evolve show a couple of years ago. That one was on the WWE Network before they bought Evolve. It was ace. But anyway, that's what I've got to say about Briggs. I think he's a star waiting to happen, and it frustrates me because not a lot of people know it.
Well, now they do. As long as they watch this, they'll know a little bit more that there is at least one very passionate Evolve fan that remembers his work over there.
Hey, there's loads. We're out there.
I think in this match, there's only 3 people who are winning here. And I don't think it's Trick Williams, and I don't think it's Dijak. I think Trick Williams is tied up elsewhere. Dijak and Ilja have had a long storied rivalry on NXT already, so it would be a little bit stale to then throw them back together after like a few months. It's not even that long ago. It was earlier this year that they had that like amazing. Was it a last man standing match?
I think so. Yeah, I could be wrong.
But I think the winner is either going to be Bron Breakker. We could get a bit of an upset and see Josh Briggs really step out and get this number one contendership, and have to kind of deal with being in that main event spot. Or we see Tyler Bate versus Ilja Dragunov. Sign me up, because I take that every day of the week. So I would like it to be Tyler Bate. I think it's going to be Bron Breakker though. What say you, Sam?
See, I like the idea of Trick Williams winning it and maybe Braun, because they've kind of teased Braun and Dijak a little bit. I don't know who's the face there. Maybe neither of them need to be. But I personally, I don't know if my money's on it. But then again, I don't know if my money's on any of them. Maybe Braun, but no, Bron, sorry. But I think Trick Williams wins this, and it goes into, and his star rises while Carmelo's falls, and that builds into their story. That is, if they win this, they get a title shot. Is that right? Against
they're number one contender.
Because Dragunov as well and Trick are good mates. But it took a while for Dragunov to acknowledge Trick and actually see his potential. And then he did. And actually, when he did, he was rude to Hayes when Hayes came out and felt insecure. So I don't know if the story going forward here is Trick wins this, has a match against Dragunov that Hayes interferes in and ruins it for him, or throws in the towel. That is what I do. I don't know, because Bron, not Bron. Why do I keep calling him Bron? Bron. I don't know where Bron goes from here, because at the moment he's kind of floating from babyface to babyface, being a bit of a bully. But I also kind of think Von Wagner and Bron aren't done.
No, not by a long shot.
You see what I mean? So I don't know here if Bron then goes on to feud with somebody else or But yeah, I think that's the big story, where Trick and Hayes is the big story. Quite where Bate, Briggs and Dijak fit in, I don't know. But I ultimately think Briggs is heading into a feud with his special friend, and I think Jensen. I don't know what they're doing with Jen. And I feel I'm really mean to Jensen. Sorry, Jensen. It's just I don't buy it that you're not, a total ladies' man, because I know who your family are. But then when it comes to Tyler Bate, I don't know what I'd do with Tyler. I love Tyler Bate. I think he's great, but I was always much more of a fan of him in British Strong Style in Progress than I've ever been of him in WWE. So I don't know. Dijak, I think I'd say Wesley, but that's not going to happen, is it? I don't know, but no, my money is on Trick coming out of this, because I think that cements him to superstardom, because some of these guys have done things he could only dream of yet, and they've got to get behind this Trick train now with the crowd are behind him.
Yeah, I'm not against the idea of even Trick Williams having the belt in the feud with Carmelo Hayes, and it being that way around, because everyone thought it would be Carmelo Hayes as the champion. So it could be a kind of nice little.
No, I don't think he'll. Just to correct myself. I don't think he'll win the belt. I think he'll ultimately fail at beating Dragunov because of Melo, and that's your story heading into, because like the whole Trick and Melo thing doesn't need a belt to be a good story. Doesn't need it. It's about two friends who have, insecurities built between them.
Yeah, you could roll in that insecurities even further by the fact that you see everyone else go like, "Oh my God, Trick Williams is the champion," and you kind of like, why is Carmelo Hayes not like really made up for him if he's like as good a friend as he says?
But they've done that. They've done that.
They did it the other way around when it was the North American champion, wasn't it?
But when Melo failed, and Trick won the other one. We had that. We didn't have it for very long, but we did have it, and we did see Melo as a bit down in the dumps while Trick was on top of the world. We did we've not seen it with the other belt, but I don't. The only thing that makes me shoot that down is I don't think it's Dragunov's time to drop it, not by a long shot, and I don't think Trick is the man just yet to take it off him. But I do think you can have a top babyface without him being the champ, and I think that's what we sometimes forget with wrestling. Sometimes it just needs a good story and it doesn't need a belt. And Dragunov right now is the champ. He's the guy with the belt that works. Dominik Mysterio has the other belt that's tied up in some storylines as well. For me, I don't care about the belts, but I am very, very interested in this story of two brothers or two friends.
All right. Well, I mean, there are a lot of good stories going on, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of good stories coming out of Deadline as well. We are going to start tidying up here as we approach an hour and a half. Just a couple of things on NXT. No Lyra Valkyria is not on the card at all.
Yeah.
So no women's championship match. She seems destined for Lola Vice, but as I said, there's going to be a number one contender out of the women's Iron Survivor Challenge as well. So things are going to get a little bit messy. So I'd imagine Lyra Valkyria is going to be kept very busy in the coming weeks and months. And we'll be interested to see if we're still talking about her as champion when we get to Stand and Deliver in Philly. So let's see what they do there. But we've had the women
keeping it warm. Sorry, mate. She's keeping it warm for Tiffany.
We'll see. We will see. Men's breakout tournament starts this week or on Tuesday. So be interested. I've got a list of the names here. One of them, by the way, Jesus. Riley Osborne, Keanu Carver, Tavion Heights, Dion Lennox, Luca Crucifino, Miles Bourne, Trey Bearhill, and I really don't want to
go on.
Oba Femi, and that's like two different words for that gentleman, Oba Femi, which is.
See, I actually know who he is because I watch Level Up like a good fan.
Yeah, so the problem I have here is. I think Luca Crucifino, who's the guy who plays a sort of lawyer type.
It's a stupid gimmick, but it makes it work.
But he's the only one that we've actually seen in like any kind of capacity on NXT. So I thought
Tavion Heights. Have we seen Tavion Heights?
Yeah, but not like. So I have a bit more of an issue. Obviously, on the women's breakout tournament, we'd seen Lola Vice. Like we'd seen a couple of them already have matches, but then on this one. None of them stand out, and one of them gets a shot for winning this tournament. What
the main championship?
They can any championship. They're allowed to pick which one they want to go for.
Well, they're not going to have to flip in Roman Reigns, are they? It's got to be Ilja.
Well, presumably, it's got to be an NXT. It has to be an NXT championship, but I guess at least with the men, they can go after the North American Championship if they wanted to. But it feels very strange that you're going to go, oh, I know, let's pick a name out. Miles Bourne wins and then goes, I'm going to shoot my shot and have a match with Dragunov straight away.
I'm actually for it. Look, I think Dragunov will eat him alive because obviously. But Miles Bourne, since his heel turn, I kind of like it. He's got Gulak in his corner. It's all right. I'm feeling it. And let's not forget, right? I can't believe I'm the one praising the NXT's booking here, and you're failing it. But let's not forget, a couple of years ago, Carmelo Hayes was in this position. I didn't know or care who Carmelo Hayes was.
Yes.
He was an R-Shucks babyface, and I gave zero shits about him. Look at him now. Oh my God, what a star!
But you can go back further because you had oh my God, his name's completely forgotten me. The Australian guy, big guy, massive guy on Raw. Used to be not Jonah Hill, Jonah Stone was his name.
Oh, it was Jonah Rock, and now he's
Jonah Stone. Yeah.
No, it's blue.
I can even hear his Godzilla style.
Yeah. What's he called? Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed was in it. So that there are names that have come out of it, but this feels to me like it's one of the weaker ones at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see how the pieces together. Because I'd love a good tournament. I do like a good tournament. I wish it was all on one night. I like this sort of standalone events.
How amazing is Bronson Reed, by the way? I could watch him all day. Just jumping on people.
I really like Bronson Reed. He's like I love that match they had the other week where he was kind of these are the new addition of big guys because they can still move really well. Like his tsunami, is incredible. It legitimately looks like it would crush you.
Do you see that package they did on Raw the other day, where he was like, they showed a rerun of the cage match. He was that awesome cage match he had, and they do a bit where he jumps off the turnbuckle, but then you hear a voiceover, him just going tsunami as he jumps, and it actually takes all the threat and danger out of it. Just hearing him shouting. No, I think it was him. But it was like, just go watch it. It's on Raw. It's really funny. Like they make this guy look like an absolute badass, and then they undo it just in that last minute with him going tsunami. And I had to pause it, and I was howling with laughter. But it's just WWE being happy. They know what to do.
Right, Sam, you got 30 seconds. Tell us where they can find you. What should they be watching out for?
Right here, give me a haul. Yeah, we're doing SmackDown tonight. CM Punk's first time on SmackDown in a million years since the dinosaurs died out. So that's going to be amazing. I mean, like again, I have a lot of reservations about CM Punk being in WWE. I do. It's no secret. If he behaves himself, I'm all for it. But I just think tonight is going to just be tonight's SmackDown is essential viewing. So if you want me to watch me having really, really mixed feelings and thoughts about it as I'm watching it, then give me a whole SmackDown's watch along tonight, because it's even I don't know what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do or how I'm going to feel. I'm just going to go and see where the wind takes me, really. And Andy, are you joining me this evening?
Well,
you're welcome.
As I said to you earlier, I can only say one thing on that.
So this is just me fake laughing before he says it, but do go ahead.
I already said it. I just did it. You just completely laughed over the top.
Oh no, sorry, say it again because I
was trying to do the Randy Orton thing you did last week, which is "Daddy's back," which was a very sort of like camp way of saying it, but fair enough.
Did you see me doing it on stream the other night at the beginning of the SmackDown stream last week?
I did, but I feel like you needed to commit a little bit more to it. I feel.
You think I thought I was the epitome of cool when I did that, but it was 1 a.m. and I was exhausted and a little bit drunk.
SmackDown tonight. Give me a whole stream 1 a.m. or tonight, tomorrow morning, whatever you want to call it. 1 a.m.
Was that a yes? Did I get a yes from you? Was that a yes? Was that a long-winded yes?
Why do you think I'm saying? Why do you think I'm saying that?
Good. It's been lonely at the top recently. That's all.
All right, Akon, chill out. CM Punk versus returns to SmackDown tonight. Orton and LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo. Oscar versus Charlotte. Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee, and Karrion Kross versus Bobby Lashley. Both those last matches are in the US Championship Tournament, and I'm sure a lot of other stuff will go down with Kevin Owens and a whole host of other people. So join us on SmackDown Live stream, whatever you want to call it. Over on Give Me a Hole Yeah, go see Give Me a Hole Yeah, subscribe. You'll get a notification when we go live tonight. So come and join me and Sam. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Sam had a bit of some things to say about CM Punk last week. I'm sure he'll have more things to say this week as well.
Yeah, so, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I'm glad you're here, by the way, and you just did that plug, because like I didn't know any of that. So, that's great. I would have done by the time we went live. But
also go check out WrestleSphere, because there's plenty of good features on there. One of our good friends wrote a CM Punk feature, which is what I'm actually working on myself, which you'll see on Rush on Rock. But you can go check out a long form feature, which I always appreciate people doing over on WrestleSphere about the return of CM Punk. But you can also read a lot of different interviews that have been taking place with a lot of the indie scene in the UK by our good friend Sam here as well. So go check out WrestleSphere and follow them on all the socials as well.
Speaking of WrestleSphere as well,
yes.
just on WrestleSphere, we are having a period of rapid growth and evolution on WrestleSphere at the moment. I don't know what we've done, but we've been noticed by lots of people. We're getting a lot of opportunities now from AEW, from like TNA. Have always been very supportive of us, but they're giving us a lot of stuff. We're also chatting to WWE. We're likely to be at the European shows when the time comes. So it's we're approaching our year's birthday since Dom and I launched WrestleSphere very, very tentatively, and we were like, right, where do we go? We had a plan, but it's exceeded our expectations in the year that we've been doing it. We didn't think we'd be where we are currently, but my God, there's so much good stuff coming our way. And what's nice about WrestleSphere, and I'm not just saying it to toot the horns of me, Dom, and Andy, and everyone else who's involved, but like the people know we exist now, and that's the most humbling thing, and that's the biggest thing. Like, we are getting people coming to us more than us reaching out to them now, and so it's not saying that we've made it or anything like that, but we're feeling good, and I can't wait to see where it goes next year. If this is where it's gone in the first 12 months, my God.
Well, here's me thinking you're just going to plug that we're going to do some top lists of the year to finish.
Yeah, let's talk about the top lists of the year. Like, all yours are going to be wrong and only mine is going to be right, but it's going to be a great read.
Well, there you go. So if you watch this in the future, you can refer back to this when actually the NXT and the WWE ones are the better lists, and we can talk about that. And hey, we might even do a WrestleSphere live stream with Dom, the lesser spotted Dom. We'll see if we can get him involved. But yeah, it's been a big year for the guys at WrestleSphere, and for Gimme Hill. Yeah, first time going to WrestleMania was this year. We were all at Money in the Bank as well, so plenty of representation. 2024 promises to be even bigger, so get on board now. Go subscribe across WrestleSphere and check out the website as well. Go follow the socials, and while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Wrestling Royalty as well. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you very much for sticking with us for more than a football match worth of content for NXT Breakout. That's not what it is. It's NXT Deadline. Enjoy it tomorrow night, Saturday night. It's always great to have a premium live event on a Saturday into a Sunday because you can watch it at your leisure. But anyway, thank you very much, Sam, for joining us. As I said, he's been Sam. I've been Andy. This has been Wrestling Royalty.